Well, that is a year I'm not eager to repeat, let me tell you. And in my first video of the year, I wanted to share a little bit about my own personal struggles and how I overcame them. You know, in medicine, resilience is characterised as the capability to recover when having had an illness or disease, as well as an individual's ability to mentally find the resolve to face these kinds of stressful events and adopt a more positive outlook, which in turn supports positive outcomes. And from experience, I think it's fair to say that physical and mental resilience are very closely linked. Certainly it seems that those who find it hard to mentally deal with difficult and challenging physical events often find that optimizing their physical health is less successful. And in the context of chronic ill health, as in my case, and that's to say, you know, things aren't likely to get better anytime soon, or indeed ever, I believe that this is especially true. And in those cases, it's important that you start to find a way to harness your resilience. My personal circumstances, do they qualify me to make that assessment? Well, my life challenges are no doubt less than some people's, but they're certainly more than others. I've lived with and battled renal failure since I was 15 years old, which is quite a long time ago now. And whilst it hasn't exactly been an easy ride, I do consider myself to be resilient. I've made my mind up a very long time ago that I was determined that my health difficulties were not going to define my life. Don't get me wrong, I've faced bouts of depression, absolutely, feelings of hopelessness, and even in my darkest moments, despair. But what has saved me time and again is the will to rally, to find a way to push through. And if not for that, I imagine my life would have been, you know, pretty unbearable. So hello, hi again. Lesley Hornsby here, welcome to my channel. Now my videos normally focus on communication skills and coaching tips using NLP. But today my video is going to be slightly different because what I want to do is focus on taking charge of your thinking, emotions and behaviour, but specifically in the context of facing some major life challenges. Now, as usual, if these topics interest you and you'd like to know more, of course you can just click subscribe and get future videos because I post usually on a regular basis. And if you think you'd like to have a go at some life coaching, that might help you, then of course I'm happy to talk things through. You just have to use the link below to make an obligation-free telephone appointment. Okay, so for those that follow my videos, you're going to know I haven't posted in quite a while. And this has simply been because I've been trying to deal with yet more health challenges. And frankly, resilient or not, I'm both physically and mentally exhausted. Without boring you with all the details, basically it culminated in me having a stroke. And I won't lie, that scared the living crap out of me, if I'm honest. Thankfully, it was something called a transient ischemic attack or a mini stroke. And that's the same as a stroke, but the symptoms, thankfully, only last a short time. While it was happening, though, with the whole left side of my body semi-paralysed, I was terrified. All I could think about is how am I going to live an independent life if this is my new reality? And although I'm still in the throes of getting back on an even keel mentally, I have spent the last few weeks reflecting on the role of resilience when facing a long-term illness, how and why it sometimes fails me, and if there's anything I can do differently to really recapture it when I need it most. So how then do you build health and resilience? I think it's fair to say that whatever you want to achieve in your life, resilience can influence how healthy you are. It's of course easier to be resilient when your energy levels are up, helping you to be adaptable and lean into that adversity. Your level of resilience can be quantified by how easily you're able to bounce back when you're temporarily knocked off course. You know, there are plenty of examples of how human beings can take pretty significant levels of punishment and still manage to survive. But just surviving, that shouldn't be the goal, but rather finding a way to thrive. To help you achieve that, you could look at literature that can offer inspiration in dealing with your own challenges. And of course, it's a very personal thing, but as an example, Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved by Kate Bowler might be worth reading. It tells the story of Kate's end-stage colon cancer and her exploration of how to make sense of frustratingly nonsensical things in your life, such as a chronic illness. Something that I believe affects your mental equilibrium is when your sense of control is threatened. And it's fair to say that life, under most circumstances, has elements of uncertainty and is regularly in a state of flux between order and chaos. And it can be helpful to not only accept that this is part of life, but to counter it. You can spend some time identifying what's within your control as well as what you can't influence. And there's an exercise you can do on this called, unsurprisingly, the Circle of Influence. It was devised by the management guru Stephen Covey, and the model is based on two circles, one within the other. The first circle is your circle of concern, which you can include a whole range of things really, like, I don't know, global warming, your health, state of the economy, to the way people drive their cars and so on. Your list will of course be a very personal choice. What's important is that there may be little you can do about it. Many of these things, they're outside of your influence. As such, devoting energy or worrying about them is likely a total waste of time, the equivalent of shouting at the television. So your circle of influence will be much smaller, and it includes things that you can do something about. Now, the key is to focus your energy on those things that you can influence, and if you wish to make effective changes. Beyond that, there's another approach that can help you feel more in control, and it's to try and develop a series of daily habits which are under your influence. Another part of developing resilience and staying positive is engaging in gentle exercise. Yes, I know, the dreaded exercise, but it's well documented that regular exercise actively has huge potential for enhancing your well-being, helping to increase self-esteem, reduce stress and anxiety, limit the risk of depression, and make you feel happier through the release of those feel-good hormones. And you can tailor any exercise regime to your physical limitations. So whether that means short periods of high-impact exercise, which has been shown to make a significant difference to your well-being, or maybe a less strenuous approach, a 10-20 minute exercise regime of gentle exercise. So the bottom line is, it's better than nothing. I don't have much stamina. Renal failure has a tendency to make you quite anemic, and that means that there's less oxygen, and of course that translates into feeling pretty exhausted a lot of the time. So the gentle exercise approach is the one that works for me. To break the cycle of inertia, I just decided do 5 minutes of exercise first thing in the morning before anything, and no ifs and buts, no, oh, I better put my makeup on first, or I need to have a cup of coffee. Just, it worked for me, and now I've begun to extend that time. But I'm careful not to make it a chore, because that is a surefire way to lose your incentive. We often set ourselves goals that are just too onerous, and it's no surprise that before long it's just fallen by the wayside. So the rule of thumb, something is better than nothing. And as you feel stronger, it becomes part of your daily routine, and eventually you'll just do it without thinking. And also, don't think that you need a gym. A gym's not that necessary. You can find inexpensive ways to exercise at home. I've got an air walker. I bought it quite a long time ago on the cheap, I have to say. But I chose that equipment because I knew it would suit me best. A lot of people go for the static exercise bikes, and I knew that wasn't going to be for me because I tend to burn lactic acid very quickly, and that then obviously creates quite a lot of pain in my muscles in a short amount of time. So it put me off using it. But I also stream yoga. That is a great way to build stamina and inner core strength, and plus it's a really nice way to sort of ease into meditative stuff, that counters stress, because the trick is you just work at your own level and you adopt the poses properly, because that's what gives you the core strength, rather than just trying to match what the tutor does. And it's the best way to get the most out of your yoga, so not losing confidence or incentive. And sometimes I just stick some music on and dance in my living room, and that could be a great way of having a cardio workout if you put on some fast music, of course. Of course, my exercise routine is a bit uneven, but I capitalise on those days when I'm feeling stronger, and there's no doubt that I do feel better for it. Another thing I was thinking about is, chronic illness is stressful. Dealing with it is important because excess stress releases chemicals like cortisol, which is the primary stress hormone, and cortisol increases glucose in your bloodstream, and if that persists, it can have a very harmful impact on your body. Sometimes we don't recognise we're stressed, but there are both physical and mental symptoms that you can look out for. Some of the most prevalent physical effects include difficulty breathing, panic attacks, trouble sleeping, and fatigue, to name a few. And believe me, I've had all of them in my time. Mentally, you may experience things like irritability, anxiety, becoming more easily angered, loss of interest in life, and of course depression, and that's by no means the whole list. In order to counter stress, it's important to develop ways of releasing it. Now, that might be exercising, and you'd be surprised at how effective that can be. Exercise has a very positive impact on your body's chemical balance. Another thing, mindfulness and meditation are other ways of reducing stress. And if you're unsure of what mindfulness is, briefly, it's just a type of meditation. It's a technique where you focus on being truly aware of the present moment, how you're feeling in terms of thoughts and feelings, as well as what you're sensing physically. Regularly practicing mindfulness and learning how to be in the moment is a very effective way in reducing stress and anxiety. And even for those who find it all a bit touchy-feely, once you grasp the fundamentals, it can be surprisingly liberating. Of course, some of us use less healthy ways of dealing with stress, which may work in the short term, but end up being really quite harmful, more so than the original stress. So unsurprisingly, I'd say things like alcohol and drugs are not really the solution. Okay, so another thing that can contribute to stress is placing unreasonable expectations on yourself. This is something I'm absolutely guilty of. Hands up to that. But to combat this, you've got to give yourself permission to ease up. Be kind to yourself. It's a very simple and effective way to build resilience. It's not uncommon for people to be so consumed by busy, stressful lives that often they prioritise everything above themselves. And if you recognise that this is a tendency, then, consider making a change. Try writing stuff down, something that's just for you, like you're going to spend 20 minutes reading a book or watching a film or just going out for lunch with a friend. Yeah, so I've already mentioned yoga, but honestly, once you've mastered a few basics around the breathing techniques and finding your centre, it can be a real stress buster. I personally like it because it has 3 major benefits for me. It's taught me to breathe properly, very good for your general well-being. And that might sound a bit weird, but studies have shown that on average, people's breathing is just too shallow, particularly if they don't exercise. Then there's the meditative aspect to yoga, which really can battle stress very effectively. And then there's the dual physicality of yoga, because by their very nature, the poses encourage you to stretch and flex muscles and joints. Physically, then, it's promoting and building core strength as well as keeping you limber. Another consideration is that it's no surprise that stress affects your sleep patterns, as does ill health. Certainly, I can testify that insomnia is a common symptom of renal failure. Research has shown that the lack of sleep shortens your life expectancy and can cause or exacerbate serious medical conditions. The right amount of sleep, that varies from person to person, but on average, it's around 8 hours. Sleep is important not only to your brain, but also helps your body grow or repair any damage that you may have sustained. If you're finding sleep elusive, try some tactics. Reduce blue light. That's things like phones, TVs, computer screens prior to your bedtime. Because more than any other colour, blue light interferes with your body's ability to prepare for sleep, because it blocks a hormone called melatonin, and that makes you sleepy. And the end result is that you're less drowsy, it takes you longer to fall asleep. Another way to more readily prepare for your sleep is to ensure that the bedroom is cool, and no surprise, quiet and dark. Ensure you switch to caffeine-free drinks and reduce your alcohol intake when you're getting close to your sleep time. And remember, your body loves routine when it comes to sleeping, so be as consistent as possible with bedtimes. Now, I love my coffee, and I did find it difficult to forego it after a certain time in the evening, so what did I do? I switched to decaf, and I really thought it wouldn't taste the same, but I have to say, after a very short space of time, I couldn't tell the difference. And now, if I fancy a coffee before bed, there's no worry about it keeping me awake. Now, if you're a napper, which isn't a bad thing, I would say that you try to limit that to 20 to 30 minutes and not too close to your bedtime either. Another consideration, and I personally struggle with this, is the wrong kind of mattress. I can't sleep on soft mattresses, so it's worth investing in the best mattress that suits you. Another thing, at one point I used to help myself drift off with relaxation sounds, and the ones that worked for me were soundtracks of gentle surf, I know, a bit of a cliche, cicadas, and weirdly thunderstorms and rain. And one final tip on sleeplessness: if worry tends to keep you awake, make it part of your daily routine before you go to bed to write a list of the things that are bothering you for the next day. Now, it might sound odd, but it can help you sort of mentally set aside those things that are bothering you. A bit like Scarlett O'Hara saying, you know, whenever she makes a decision, I'll think about it tomorrow. So one final strategy for building resilience is finding things to be grateful for. It's funny, but your brain cannot physically worry about stuff and be grateful for things at the same time. And learning to do this has two benefits. First of all, it silences your inner critic, whilst at the same time focuses on the things in your life that you want to feel joyful about. Now, your initial reaction might be to find it difficult to find the good stuff, particularly if you're depressed. But it doesn't need to be big stuff. You know, the little things can be equally potent. I myself often give thanks for my home, the fact that I'm warm, I have enough food, and that I enjoy times with my friends. And this has been a very effective way to help me gain a little bit of perspective and improve my resilience and overall well-being. It may not seem like it, but how you feel about things, about your life, is a choice. I choose to look for the good stuff. I don't want to live my life in a sea of misery. I mean, what is the point? It can only harm you both physically and mentally. So there you have it, a few things to try to harness your resilience and combat stress. And I hope this video has given you something to ponder and maybe help you make some changes in your life. So all of this stuff is about making decisions on how you want to be. And if you think you need a boost to get you started, that's where talking to a life coach might help. So whether it's about building resilience, working towards a general change in how you think, needing clarity about life goals, or maybe you just want help overcoming a mental block or limiting belief, then why not get in touch? You know, there's a contact link that I've added below where you can make a free 30-minute appointment with me for a preliminary, obligation-free chat. For the NLP enthusiasts among you, I've added a free guide to 3 brilliant NLP techniques that you might like to try, so just use that link below to download the PDF. And don't forget, click subscribe to the YouTube channel to get these videos. So hopefully now I'm back on top of things. I'm going to be posting every week. And I hope you can join me again next time with help and advice on leading a more fulfilled life. In the meantime, thank you so much for joining me. I've enjoyed your company and I hope to see you again next time. Bye for now.